Yeah, just Nibbana. I was wondering how that is achieved and how significant it is to achieve that.
Nibbana,
Yeah.
Nirvana.
Yeah.
What's the significance of Nirvana?
Yeah.
And how and why do you want to achieve it?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the significance of Nibbana and why do you have to achieve it? Prajan said that according to the Buddha, it's because everyone here is moving towards their own death. The Buddha said that if there are three natural phenomena that exist in this world, which if it does not exist, there is no need for the Buddha to be born. And what are those three phenomena? One is birth, second is old age, and third one is death. So there are these three natural phenomena that exist, and that's why the Buddha needs to be born and he needs to be enlightened. And the Buddha was born to solve these three problems: the problem of birth, old age, and death. So his teaching is about trying to solve it. We are concerned that how to end this death, because we are moving towards this death again and again, and how can we escape from this cycle? The Buddha said that his enlightenment, Nibbana, he was able to open the gate towards you can say the city of deathless, when there's no more death. And when he said there's no more death, that means you have to understand that death can also end. It is another natural phenomena that originates, and it can also cease to exist. So death can come to an end. We can end this cycle of birth and death. And the danger of it is that we are inhabiting this system of birth and death for all eternity. And it's not just this realm of human beings, but also the realms of animal kingdoms, the realms of perishable ghosts, the realms of hell. Each realms have different levels of happiness, sadness, suffering, and despair and lamentation. So if we cannot attain Nirvana, or if we are not moving towards Nirvana, we are going to be traveling or wandering within all these realms for all eternity without being able to escape. So the Buddha was born specifically to solve this problem. And how do we solve this problem? By trying to see the truth. The truth that is everything has origination and cessation. And by seeing this truth again and again, we are going to be able to get rid of all the clinging, all the things that we cling on to that we think is ours, when they're actually not ours, like our body or our emotions, temptations, or our temper, or all these tangible and intangible qualities that we think are ours, but they are not ours. We need to understand this truth in order to move towards liberation or nirvana. Yes, and then we will to let go of all those things that we cling on to. Yes.
The inducer. Bhikkhus, an exertion should be made to understand. This is suffering. This is the origin of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering. This is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. Thus, bhikkhus, I have taught you the destination and the path leading to the destination. Whatever should be done, bhikkhus, by a compassionate teacher out of compassion for his disciples, desiring their welfare, that I have done for you. These are the feet of trees, bhikkhus. These are empty huts. Meditate, bhikkhus. Do not be negligent, lest you regret it later. This is our instruction to you.
I was just it was really looking for an explanation about the connection between meditation, self-awareness, and a clear mind, and how that works together and is best achieved.
Okay. He said that according to the Buddha, the relationships between to clarify your mind and the meditation is that in order to clear your mind, you have to focus your mind on one thing, which is the body. In this case, it's also the breath. And by practicing the restraint, by trying not to allow your mind to wander off, is the way to clear your mind. And by repeatedly doing this, meditation will develop. So the key is to focus on one thing, which is your mind, or which is your body, or your breath. And by repeatedly doing this, your meditation will develop. And according to the Buddha, there are 9 levels of meditation. And you can reach from the next level to the next level. And also there are also the meditation that is belong to the noble person, which is in a higher level. But also the Buddha wants you to also cultivate the wisdom or the insight. In this case, it is the insight or the wisdom that you try to see the truth. And the truth is that there is an origination and a cessation. There's a beginning, the generation or the origination of things, and also the cessation, the end of all the compound things when you meditate.
Mindfulness of breathing. And how, bhikkhus, does mindfulness of breathing developed and cultivated fulfill the 4 foundations of mindfulness? Bhikkhus, on whatever occasion a bhikkhu breathing in long understands, I breathe in long, or breathing out long understands, I breathe out long. Breathing in short understands, I breathe in short. Or breathing out short understands, I breathe out short. Trains thus, I shall breathe in experiencing the whole body of breath. Trains thus, I shall breathe out experiencing the whole body of breath. Trains thus, I shall breathe in, tranquilizing the bodily formation. Trains thus, I shall breathe out, tranquilizing the bodily formation. Bhikkhus, on that occasion a bhikkhu abides, contemplating the body as a body, ardent, fully aware and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. Bhikkhus, I say that this is a certain body among the bodies, namely in breathing and out breathing. Bhikkhus, that is why on that occasion a bhikkhu abides, contemplating the body as a body, ardent, fully aware and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. Bhikkhus, on whatever occasion a bhikkhu trains thus, I shall breathe in experiencing rapture. Trains thus, I shall breathe out experiencing rapture. Trains thus, I shall breathe in, experiencing pleasure. Trains thus, I shall breathe out, experiencing pleasure. Trains thus, I shall breathe in, experiencing the mental formation. Trains thus, I shall breathe out, experiencing the mental formation. Trains thus, I shall breathe in, tranquilizing the mental formation. Trains thus, I shall breathe out, tranquilizing the mental formation. Bhikkhus. On that occasion, a bhikkhu abides contemplating feelings as feelings. Ardent, fully aware, and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. Bhikkhus. I say that this is a certain feeling among the feelings, namely, giving close attention to in-breathing and out-breathing. Bhikkhus. That is why, on that occasion, a bhikkhu abides contemplating feelings as feelings, ardent, fully aware, and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. Bhikkhus. On whatever occasion, a bhikkhu trains thus, I shall breathe in, experiencing the mind. Trains thus, I shall breathe out, experiencing the mind. Trains thus, I shall breathe in, gladdening the mind. Trains thus, I shall breathe out, gladdening the mind. Trains thus, I shall breathe in, concentrating the mind. Trains thus, I shall breathe out, concentrating the mind. Trains thus, I shall breathe in, liberating the mind. Trains thus, I shall breathe out, liberating the mind. Bhikkhus. On that occasion, a bhikkhu abides contemplating mind as mind. Ardent, fully aware and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. Bhikkhus. I do not say that there is the development of mindfulness of breathing for one who is forgetful, who is not fully aware. Bhikkhus. That is why, on that occasion, a bhikkhu abides contemplating mind as mind, ardent, fully aware and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. Bhikkhus. On whatever occasion, a bhikkhu trains thus, I shall breathe in, contemplating impermanence. Trains thus, I shall breathe out, contemplating impermanence. Trains thus, I shall breathe in, contemplating fading away. Trains thus, I shall breathe out, contemplating fading away. Trains thus, I shall breathe in, contemplating cessation. Trains thus, I shall breathe out, contemplating cessation. Trains thus, I shall breathe in, contemplating relinquishment. Trains thus, I shall breathe out, contemplating relinquishment. Bhikkhus, on that occasion, a bhikkhu abides, contemplating mind objects as mind objects. Ardent, fully aware and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. Having seen with wisdom the abandoning of covetousness and grief, he closely looks on with equanimity. That is why, on that occasion, a bhikkhu abides contemplating mind objects as mind objects. Ardent, fully aware and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. Bhikkhus, that is how mindfulness of breathing developed and cultivated fulfills the four foundations of mindfulness. Rahula, when mindfulness of breathing is developed and cultivated in this way, even the final in-breaths and out-breaths are known as they cease, not unknown. Not understanding and not penetrating the Four Noble Truths. Bhikkhus, just a stick thrown up into the air falls now on its bottom, now on its top. So too as beings roam and wander on, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. Now they go from this world to the other world. Now they come from the other world to this world. For what reason? Because they have not seen the Four Noble Truths. What for? The noble truth of suffering, the noble truth of the origin of suffering, the noble truth of the cessation of suffering, the noble truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering. Therefore, bhikkhus, an exertion should be made to understand. This is suffering. An exertion should be made to understand. This is the origin of suffering. An exertion should be made to understand. This is the cessation of suffering. An exertion should be made to understand. This is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. Bhikkhus, it is because of not understanding and not penetrating the Four Noble Truths that you and I have roamed and wandered through this long course of samsara. What for? It is, bhikkhus, because of not understanding and not penetrating the noble truth of suffering, the noble truth of the origin of suffering, the noble truth of the cessation of suffering, the noble truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering, that you and I have roamed and wandered through this long course of samsara. That noble truth of suffering, bhikkhus, has been understood and penetrated. That noble truth of the origin of suffering has been understood and penetrated. That noble truth of the cessation of suffering has been understood and penetrated. That noble truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering has been understood and penetrated. Craving for existence has been cut off. The conduit to existence has been destroyed. Now there is no more renewed existence. The chain of dependent origination. Therein, bhikkhus, the instructed noble disciple attends carefully and closely to dependent origination itself thus. When this exists, that comes to be. With the arising of this, that arises. When this does not exist, that does not come to be. With the cessation of this, that ceases. That is, with ignorance as condition, volitional formations. With volitional formations as condition, consciousness. With consciousness as condition, name and form. With name and form as condition, the six sense bases. With the six sense bases as condition, contact. With contact as condition, feeling. With feeling as condition, craving. With craving as condition, clinging. With clinging as condition, existence. With existence as condition, birth. With birth as condition, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair come to be. Such is the origin of this whole mass of suffering. With the remainderless fading away and cessation of ignorance comes cessation of volitional formations. With the cessation of volitional formations, cessation of consciousness. With the cessation of consciousness comes cessation of name and form. With the cessation of name and form comes cessation of the six sense bases. With the cessation of the six sense bases comes cessation of contact. With the cessation of contact comes cessation of feeling. With the cessation of feeling comes cessation of craving. With the cessation of craving comes cessation of clinging. With the cessation of clinging comes cessation of existence. With the cessation of existence comes cessation of birth. With the cessation of birth comes cessation of aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair cease. Such is the cessation of this whole mass of suffering. The Arya Eightfold Path. And what, bhikkhus, is the Arya truth concerning the way that leads to the cessation of ill? This is that Aryan Eightfold Path, to wit, right view, right aspiration, right speech, right doing, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right rapture. And what, bhikkhus, is right view? Knowledge, bhikkhus, about ill. Knowledge about the coming to be of ill. Knowledge about the cessation of ill. Knowledge about the way that leads to the cessation of ill. This is what is called right view. And what, bhikkhus, is right aspiration? The aspiration towards renunciation, the aspiration towards benevolence, the aspiration towards kindness. This is what is called right aspiration. And what, bhikkhus, is right speech? Abstaining from lying, slander, abuse, and idle talk. This is what is called right speech. And what, bhikkhus, is right doing? Abstaining from taking life, from taking what is not given, from carnal indulgence. This is what is called right doing. And what, bhikkhus, is right livelihood? Herein, O bhikkhus, the Arya disciple, having put away wrong livelihood, supports himself by right livelihood. And what, bhikkhus, is right effort? Herein, O bhikkhus, a brother makes effort in bringing forth will that evil and bad states that have not arisen within him may not arise. To that end he stirs up energy. He grips and forces his mind, that he may put away evil and bad states that have arisen within him. He puts forth will. He makes effort. He stirs up energy. He grips and forces his mind, that good states which have not arisen may arise. He puts forth will. He makes effort. He stirs up energy. he grips and forces his mind, that good states which have arisen may persist, may not grow blurred, may multiply, grow abundant, develop and come to perfection. He puts forth will, he makes effort, he stirs up energy, he grips and forces his mind. This is what is called right effort. And what, bhikkhus, is right mindfulness? Herein, O bhikkhus, a brother, as to the body, continues so to look upon the body, that he remains ardent, self-possessed, and mindful, having overcome both the hankering and the dejection common in the world, and in the same way as to feelings, thoughts, and ideas. He so looks upon each that he remains ardent, self-possessed, and mindful, having overcome the hankering and the dejection that is common in the world. This is what is called right mindfulness. And what, bhikkhus, is right rapture? Herein, O bhikkhus, a brother aloof from sensuous appetites, aloof from evil ideas, enters into and abides in the first jhana, wherein there is cognition and deliberation, which is born of solitude and is full of joy and ease. Suppressing cogitation and deliberation, he enters into and abides in the second jhana, which is self-evoked, born of concentration, full of joy and ease. In that, set free from cogitation and deliberation, the mind grows calm and sure, dwelling on high. And further, disenchanted with joy, he abides calmly, contemplative, while mindful and self-possessed, he feels in his body that ease whereof Aryan declare. He that is calmly contemplative and aware, he dwelleth at ease. So does he enter into and abide in the third jhana. And further, by putting aside ease and by putting aside malaise, by the passing away of the happiness and of the melancholy he used to feel, he enters into and abides in the fourth jhana, rapture of utter purity of mindfulness and equanimity, wherein neither ease is felt nor any ill. This is what is called right rapture. This, bhikkhus, is the Aryan truth concerning the way leading to the cessation of ill. Four expected benefits for one following the teaching by ear. Bhikkhus, when one has followed the teachings by ear, recited them verbally, examined them with the mind, and penetrated them well by view, four benefits are to be expected. What for? Here a bhikkhu masters the Dhamma, discourses, mixed prose and verse, expositions, verses, inspired utterances, quotations, birth stories, amazing accounts, and questions and answers. He has followed those teachings by ear, recited them verbally, examined them with the mind, and penetrated them well by view. He passes away muddled in mind and is reborn into a certain group of devas. There the happy ones recite passages of the Dhamma to him. The arising of his memory is sluggish, but then that being quickly reaches distinction. This is the first benefit to be expected when one has followed the teachings by ear, recited them verbally, examined them with the mind, and penetrated them well by view. Again, a bhikkhu masters the Dhamma, discourses, mixed prose and verse, expositions, verses, inspired utterances, quotations, birth stories, amazing accounts, and questions and answers. He has followed those teachings by ear, recited them verbally, examined them with the mind, and penetrated them well by view. He passes away muddled in mind and is reborn into a certain group of devas. There, the happy ones do not recite passages of the Dhamma to him, but a bhikkhu with psychic potency, who has attained mastery of mind, teaches the Dhamma to an assembly of devas. It occurs to him, "This is the Dhamma and discipline in which I formerly lived the spiritual life." The arising of his memory is sluggish, but then that being quickly reaches distinction. Suppose a man were skilled in the sound of a kettle drum. While traveling along a highway, he might hear the sound of a kettle drum. It would not be at all perplexed or uncertain about the sound. Rather, he would conclude, "That is the sound of a kettle drum." So too, a bhikkhu masters the Dhamma. The arising of his memory is sluggish, but then that being quickly reaches distinction. This is the second benefit to the expected one, has followed the teachings by ear, reciting them verbally, examined them with the mind, and penetrated them well by view. Again, a bhikkhu masters the Dhamma, discourses, mixed prose and verse, expositions, verses, inspired utterances, quotations, birth stories, amazing accounts, and questions and answers. He has followed those teachings by ear, recited them verbally, examined them with the mind, and penetrated them well by view. He passes away muddled in mind and is reborn into a certain group of devas. There, the happy ones do not recite passages of the Dhamma to him, nor does a bhikkhu with psychic potency, who has attained mastery of mind, teach the Dhamma to an assembly of devas. However, a young deva teaches the Dhamma to an assembly of devas. It occurs to him, "This is the Dhamma and discipline in which I formerly lived the spiritual life." The arising of his memory is sluggish, but then that being quickly reaches distinction. Suppose a man were skilled in the sound of a conch. While traveling along a highway, he might hear the sound of a conch, and he would not be at all perplexed or uncertain about the sound. Rather, he would conclude, "That is the sound of a conch." So too, a bhikkhu masters the Dhamma. The arising of this memory is sluggish, but then that being quickly reaches distinction. This is the third benefit to be expected when one has followed the teaching by ear, recited them verbally, examined them with the mind, and penetrated them well by view. Again, a bhikkhu masters the Dhamma, discourses, mixed prose and verse, expositions, verses, inspired utterances, quotations, birth stories, amazing accounts, and questions and answers. He has followed those teachings by ear, recited them verbally, examined them with the mind, and penetrated them well by view. He passes away muddled in mind and is reborn into a certain group of devas. There, the happy ones do not recite passages of the Dhamma to him, nor does a bhikkhu with psychic potency, who has attained mastery of mind, teach the Dhamma to an assembly of devas. Nor does a young deva teach the Dhamma to an assembly of devas. However, one being who has been spontaneously reborn reminds another who has been spontaneously reborn. "Do you remember, dear sir? Do you remember where we formerly lived the spiritual life?" The other says, "I remember, dear sir, I remember." The arising of this memory is sluggish, but then that being quickly reaches distinction. Suppose there were two friends who had played together in the mud. By chance, they would meet one another later in life. Then one friend would say to the other, "Do you remember this, friend? Do you remember that, friend?" And the other would say, "I remember, friend, I remember." So too, a bhikkhu masters the Dhamma. The arising of this memory is sluggish, but then that being quickly reaches distinction. This is the fourth benefit to be expected when one has followed the teachings by ear, recited them verbally, examined them with the mind, and penetrated them well by view. These are the four benefits to be expected when one has followed the teachings by ear, recited them verbally, examined them with the mind, and penetrated them well by view. For the unsurpassed peace. Monks, take the case when the master or some fellow in the godly life who acts as a teacher does not instruct a monk in Dhamma, and he himself does not instruct others in detail as he has heard it, as he has learnt it, but he repeats Dhamma as he has heard it, as he has learnt it, and while doing so, from the experience, gladness springs up. From that, zest. In such a stable his whole being calms down. When he is calm, ease is experienced. And for him who dwells at ease, the mind is composed. Monks, this is the third sphere of release, wherein the unreleased mind of a monk, abiding zealous, ardent and resolute, finds release, or the cankers, not yet wholly destroyed, come to complete destruction, or to the unsurpassed peace from effort, not yet attained, is one. The Enlightened One who understands, open the door to the deathless state, by which Nibbana may be safely reached. For Mara's stream is breasted now, its current blocked, its reeds removed. Rejoice then, bhikkhus, mightily, and set your hearts where safety lies. Here a bhikkhu masters the Dhamma, discourses, mixed prose and verse, expositions, verses, inspired utterances, quotations, birth stories, amazing accounts, and questions and answers. He has followed those teachings by ear, recited them verbally, examined them with the mind, and penetrated them well by view. He passes away muddled in mind, and is reborn into a certain group of devas. There, the happy ones recite passages of the Dhamma to him. The arising of his memory is sluggish, but then that being quickly reaches distinction.